The auction hall reeked of old money and older blood. She stood on the raised platform in silver chains, her wrists bound behind her back, her bare feet cold against polished marble. 200 wolves surrounded her in tiered seating: alphas, council members, collectors of rare and dangerous things. Their eyes raked over her with the assessment of predators examining meat. This was the black market conclave. The place where wolves bought and sold what pack law forbade. Weapons. Territories. Forbidden magic. And her. The auctioneer, a wizened beater with milky eyes, raised his gavel. Lot 47. Female. Approximately 23 years of age. Bloodline unknown. Origins classified. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Unknown bloodlines were either worthless or priceless. Nothing in between. She carries no wolf scent, someone called from the upper tier. Is she even one of us? Her records indicate 37 confirmed kills, the auctioneer continued smoothly. All high-value targets. All alphas. He paused for effect. She is the ghost of the Eastern Territories. The wolf who hunts wolves. And she has never failed a contract. The murmuring grew louder. Several alphas leaned forward with sudden interest. Others whispered to their advisors, calculating value and risk. She kept her expression blank. Showed nothing. Felt nothing. That was the first lesson they had taught her in the pits where they'd forged her into a weapon. Emotion is weakness, and the weak don't survive. Bidding starts at 50,000 in gold or equivalent territory. 60,000. A pack alpha from the northern clans. 100,000. A southern warlord. The numbers climbed. She stopped listening to the amounts. It didn't matter who bought her contract. They were all the same powerful wolves who believed they could control her, use her, break her to their will. They were all wrong. But they wouldn't know that until it was too late. The bidding slowed as it reached 500,000. Only 3 remained: the Northern Alpha, a collector known for acquiring rare wolves, and a presence in the back she couldn't quite see through the crowd. 600,000, the Northern Alpha declared. Silence. The sum was astronomical. More than most packs earned in a decade. Going once. The Northern reaches. Every head turned toward the back of the hall. The crowd parted like water, and she finally saw him. The Blood King. He walked through the center aisle with the confidence of someone who had never been denied anything. Power radiated from him in waves, not the crude dominance of lesser alphas, but something older, darker, absolute. His features were carved from shadow and brutality, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could have been chiseled from stone, eyes the color of spilled blood in moonlight. He was the ruler of the Western Territories, the alpha who had unified 20 packs through conquest and terror. They said he bathed in the blood of his enemies. That he had killed his own father to claim the throne. That he had never taken a mate because no wolf alive was strong enough to stand beside him. She had been contracted to kill him twice. Both times, the clients had died before she could complete the mission. Coincidence, they'd called it. She knew better. He stopped at the base of the platform, those crimson eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that should have made her look away. She stared back. The northern reaches, he repeated, his voice carrying through the silent hall. 50,000 square miles. 3 packs. 2 iron mines. And the fortress at Dead Man's Pass. He smiled, and it was not a kind expression. For her contract. All of it. The auctioneer's hand trembled. Your Majesty, that's a third of your kingdom. I know what it's worth. He never looked away from her. The question is whether she is. The gavel fell. Sold to the Blood King of the Western Reaches. She felt the contract magic snap into place, ancient bindings that would compel her to obey, that would tie her will to his until the terms were fulfilled or death released her. But as the guards removed her chains and the Blood King approached to claim his purchase, she saw something flicker in those red eyes. Something that looked almost like recognition. Do I know you? He asked quietly, close enough that only she could hear. She smiled for the first time since entering the hall. Not yet, she said. But you will. And in that moment, she wondered if he understood what he had truly bought. Not a weapon. But his own destruction. The western reaches had been forged in blood and maintained through fear. 20 packs bent the knee to the Blood King, their territories sprawling across mountains, forests, and valleys that generated enough wealth to fund armies. His fortress, Crimson Spire, sat at the heart of it all, a monument to power built from black stone and red iron. She was brought there in a reinforced carriage, still bound by silver chains that burned against her skin. Silver didn't affect normal wolves this way. But then, she had never been normal. The head of his personal guard, a scarred female beater, explained the terms during the 3-day journey. You are property of the Blood King. Your contract binds you to complete any mission he assigns. Refusal means death by magical compulsion. Betrayal means death by execution. Escape is impossible, the binding will hunt you to the ends of the earth and drag you back. I understand. Do you? The beater's eyes were hard. Most wolves the king acquires don't last 6 months. They break from the isolation, the violence, the weight of what he demands. You'll be asked to kill innocents. To destroy packs. To become the weapon he needs you to be. I've been a weapon my entire life, she said quietly. This changes nothing. That was a lie. But the beater didn't need to know that. They arrived at Crimson Spire at sunset. The fortress rose from the mountainside like a blade thrust into stone, its towers sharp enough to cut the sky. Guards lined the walls, hundreds of them, all warriors, all loyal unto death. The Blood King waited in the throne room. It was a vast chamber of dark marble veined with red, lit by torches that cast dancing shadows across walls hung with the banners of conquered packs. The throne itself was carved from a single piece of obsidian, its arms shaped like snarling wolves. He sat upon it like he was born to rule, one leg draped casually over the armrest, his crimson eyes tracking her approach. Remove her chains, he commanded. The guards hesitated. Your Majesty, she's extremely dangerous. I paid a kingdom for her. I think I can handle one assassin. His voice was bored, but she heard the steel beneath. Remove them. The silver fell away. Her wrists were raw and blistered where the metal had burned. She didn't react to the pain, didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. You're not afraid, he observed. Should I be? Most wolves are terrified in my presence. They can feel the violence I'm capable of. The death I've dealt. You feel it too, I can see it in the way your body tenses. Yet you stand there like we're equals. We're not equals, she agreed. But I'm not most wolves. Something dangerous flickered in his expression. Interest. Challenge. No. You're not. He rose from the throne, descending the steps with predatory grace. I've studied your kills. Very thorough. Very creative. The alpha of the Shadowfang pack, you made it look like a heart attack. Brilliant. The warlord of the Eastern clans, poisoned by his own daughter, who you manipulated so subtly she never knew she was being used. You've done your research. I always research my investments. He stopped close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him, could smell the scent of smoke and iron and something wilder. Tell me, assassin. Why were you at that auction? Wolves of your caliber don't get captured. Don't get sold. This was the test. The moment he would decide if she was valuable or disposable. She met his eyes without hesitation. I let myself be captured. Why? Because I wanted to meet you. The admission hung between them, heavy with implication. His eyes narrowed, calculating, assessing every micro-expression. You're either very brave or very stupid. Neither. I'm very good at what I do. She paused. And what I do is kill alphas who think they're untouchable. She watched him process the implicit threat. Watched him decide whether to be insulted or intrigued. He chose intrigue. Then we should get along perfectly, he said softly. Because what I do is survive things that should kill me. He circled her slowly, assessing. You'll have chambers in the North Tower. Comfortable but isolated. Guards outside your door at all times. You'll report to me each morning and receive your assignments. Fail, and the contract kills you. Betray me, and I'll do worse than kill you. Am I clear? Crystal. Good. He returned to stand before her, and she saw something shift in his expression. Something almost like curiosity. One more thing. The contract binds you to obey my commands, but it doesn't control your thoughts. Your opinions. I don't want a mindless weapon. I want someone who can think, strategize, adapt. His crimson eyes held hers. Can you do that? Yes. Then we'll begin tomorrow. He turned back toward his throne, dismissing her. Welcome to Crimson Spire, assassin. Try not to die too quickly. I paid far too much for you. As the guards escorted her to her chambers, she allowed herself a small smile. He thought he'd bought a weapon. He had no idea he'd purchased the last surviving heir to the bloodline his grandfather had slaughtered to claim the throne. The Blood Moon Court had fallen 23 years ago. Every royal killed, every claim to power destroyed. Or so they believed. They had been wrong. And now the debt would be paid in full. Her chambers in the North Tower were exactly as promised, comfortable, isolated, and utterly secure. Stone walls 2 feet thick. A single window with iron bars and a 300-foot drop to jagged rocks below. One door, always guarded. The room contained a bed, a desk, a bathing chamber, and nothing that could be weaponized. They had underestimated her creativity. She spent the first night examining every inch of her prison. The loose stone in the wall behind the bed. The iron bars that could be worried free with enough time and effort. The pattern of guard rotations, they changed every 4 hours, and for exactly 90 seconds during the transition, the door was unwatched. Not enough time to escape. But enough time for other things. Dawn came too quickly. A servant delivered plain clothing, dark trousers, a tunic, boots designed for movement rather than style. Assassin's garb. He knew what she was and wasn't pretending otherwise. She dressed and waited. At precisely sunrise, the guards opened her door. The king requests your presence in the war room. She followed them through corridors of black stone, past tapestries depicting battles and conquests, down stairs that spiraled into the fortress's heart. The war room was smaller than the throne room but no less impressive. Maps covered every wall, territories marked in red for conquered, black for allied, white for neutral. A massive table dominated the center, carved from dark wood and etched with the boundaries of every pack in the known world. The Blood King stood studying a map of the Eastern Territories, his back to her. He wore black leather armor today, functional and deadly, twin blades crossed at his spine. Your first assignment, he said without turning. The alpha of the Silvercrest pack has been skimming taxes meant for my treasury. I want proof of his theft and I want him dead. Quietly. I need the pack intact, their territory borders the eastern clans. And open warfare would be costly. Timeline? 2 weeks. She studied the map. Silvercrest was 300 miles northeast, nestled in mountain territory with natural defenses. The alpha would be well guarded, paranoid. This wasn't a test of her skills, this was a test of her loyalty. I'll need supplies. Poisons. Travel documents. Access to your intelligence network. Already arranged. He finally turned to face her. In the morning light, she could see the scars that marked his throat, claw marks from some ancient battle. My spy master will provide everything you require. You leave at noon. Understood. She moved toward the door, but his voice stopped her. Assassin. She turned back. His crimson eyes were unreadable. I know you're planning something. I don't know what, but I can smell deception like others smell fear. He took a step closer. Whatever game you're playing, understand this. I have survived betrayals that would have destroyed lesser wolves. I have walked through fire and come out forged stronger. If you think you can manipulate me, use me, destroy me from within, you're welcome to try. The challenge in his voice was unmistakable. She smiled. I'll keep that in mind, Your Majesty. See that you do. The spy master was waiting outside the war room, a thin, nervous wolf who introduced himself as the Shadow and provided her with everything she'd requested. Poisons disguised as merchant goods. Documents identifying her as a traveling healer. Names of contacts in Silvercrest territory. The king values efficiency, the Shadow said as they walked. Complete the mission quickly and cleanly, and you'll earn privileges. Fail, and... He didn't need to finish the sentence. She left Crimson Spire at noon with a pack of supplies and a horse bred for endurance. The guards watched her go with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. They thought she was just another of the king's acquisitions. Another tool to be used and discarded. Let them think it. The journey to Silvercrest took 4 days. She traveled alone, avoiding main roads, camping in forests where no pack claimed territory. At night, she practiced accessing the power that had been locked inside her since birth. It came slowly at first. A tingle in her fingertips. A warmth in her chest. The sensation of something vast and ancient stirring in her blood. She had been 5 years old when the Blood King's grandfather had slaughtered her family. Her mother had used the last of her magic to bind her daughter's wolf, to suppress the royal bloodline, to make her appear human. It was the only thing that had saved her. The binding had held for 18 years. Then, 3 months ago, it had started to crack. She still couldn't shift. Couldn't access the full extent of her power. But she could feel it building, pressure behind a dam that grew weaker every day. Soon, she would be whole. And when that happened, the Blood King would learn exactly what he had brought into his fortress. She reached Silvercrest on the 4th evening. The pack's territory was as fortified as she'd expected: watchtowers on the mountain passes, patrols on the main roads, a central compound built into the cliffside. She bypassed all of it. The Alpha's weakness wasn't his security. It was his vanity. He visited a particular tavern every 3 days to meet with a mistress he kept hidden from his mate. Predictable. Exploitable. She poisoned his wine during the second visit. Nothing fast-acting that would raise suspicions. Something slow, that would mimic a heart condition, that would kill him in his sleep 3 days later. By the time his body was discovered, she was already halfway back to Crimson Spire with documents proving his embezzlement. The Blood King received her in the throne room, his expression unreadable as she laid the evidence before him. 6 days, he said. You completed a 2-week assignment in 6 days. You said you valued efficiency. I also said quietly. The Silvercrest beater is already spreading rumors about assassination. The pack is destabilized. You wanted proof and you wanted him dead. You have both. How the pack responds is a separate problem. For a long moment, he simply stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. It was a dark sound, devoid of warmth but full of genuine amusement. You're right. It is a separate problem. He descended from his throne, moving with that same predatory grace. You've earned a reward. Name it. Information. His eyebrow arched. Specify. Your grandfather. The previous Blood King. I want to know how he died. The amusement vanished from his expression. Why? Because you killed him. Everyone knows it. But no one knows why, and I want to understand the wolf who now owns my contract. It was a calculated risk. Pushing too far, too fast. But she needed to know if the rumors were true. Needed to understand if he knew about the Blood Moon Court's destruction. His eyes narrowed. My grandfather died in his sleep. Natural causes. The lie was smooth, practiced. But she could see the truth beneath it, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his fingers curled into a fist. Of course, she said evenly. Forgive my curiosity. Curiosity isn't a sin, assassin. But there are some doors better left closed. He returned to his throne. You've proven your value. Tomorrow, you'll receive a more complex assignment. Dismissed. She left the throne room with more questions than answers. But she had learned one crucial thing. The Blood King had secrets he would kill to protect. And she was very good at uncovering secrets. The second assignment came at dawn. The Eastern clans are forming an alliance, the Blood King said, spreading a map across the war table. 4 alphas, each controlling significant territory. Together, they pose a legitimate threat to my borders. You want me to kill all 4? No. I want you to destroy their alliance from within. His finger traced the territories. The youngest alpha, barely 30, newly inherited his position, is the weakest link. Seduce him. Make him believe you're a political refugee from my court. Turn him against the others. When the alliance crumbles, I'll absorb their territories without losing a single warrior. She studied the map, processing the strategy. It was brilliant, ruthless, and would take months to execute properly. This isn't an assassination. It's a long-term infiltration. Yes. Which is why you'll be establishing a permanent presence in their territory. He pulled out a leather folder containing documents. New identity. New history. Everything you need to become someone they'll trust. And if they discover I'm your assassin, they'll kill you slowly. His crimson eyes held no sympathy. The contract won't save you from torture. But I don't believe you'll be discovered. You're too skilled for that. It wasn't reassurance. It was a statement of calculated confidence in his investment. How long do I have? As long as it takes. But I expect regular reports. Coded messages sent through my spy network. He paused. And assassin. Don't actually fall for him. I've seen it happen before, wolves playing a role so long they forget it's pretend. If I sense genuine attachment, I'll recall you and eliminate the target myself. Understood. She left Crimson Spire that afternoon with her new identity, a wolf from a conquered pack, seeking refuge, talented in herb lore and healing. Harmless. Forgettable. The perfect lie. The journey east took a week. She used the time to practice her power in isolated forests, pushing against the binding that held her wolf captive. It hurt like trying to break bones from the inside, but the cracks were spreading. Small things worked now. Her senses were sharper than any normal wolf. She could hear heartbeats from 50 feet away. Smell emotions, fear, lust, rage like distinct flavors. Her strength was increasing. She could break iron chains with her bare hands when properly motivated. But she still couldn't shift. Couldn't access the full royal power that was her birthright. Patience, she told herself. The binding would break. And when it did, she reached the Eastern clan's neutral territory on the 8th day. The young alpha, barely older than she appeared, ruled the Stormclaw pack from a fortress built into a canyon. His name was spoken with a mixture of respect and pity. Respect for inheriting one of the strongest bloodlines, pity because everyone knew he was unprepared for the role. Perfect. She arranged to meet him at a trade gathering, positioning herself as a skilled healer looking for work. He noticed her immediately, young alphas always did. Power made them confident, inexperience made them reckless. You're new to the territory, he observed, approaching her stall with 2 guards flanking him. Recently arrived, Alpha. I'm seeking a pack that might have use for a healer. Where did you come from? The western reaches. The Blood King's territory. She let her voice tremble slightly, let fear color her scent. I fled after he conquered my birth pack. I couldn't serve him. Couldn't watch him destroy everything I loved. His expression softened immediately. You're safe here. The Blood King's reach doesn't extend to the Eastern clans. Yet, she thought. But aloud, she said, thank you, Alpha. Your kindness means more than you know. She had him. Over the following weeks, she integrated into the Stormclaw pack. The young Alpha gave her chambers near the healer's wing, invited her to pack gatherings, sought her counsel on minor disputes. She played her role perfectly, grateful, skilled, subtly admiring of his leadership. She also gathered intelligence. Mapped the fortress's defenses. Identified which guards were loyal, which were opportunistic. Learned the dynamics between the 4 allied alphas. And she sent coded reports to Crimson Spire every 3 days. Using the spy network the Blood King had established. His responses came in the form of brief, encrypted messages. Acceptable progress. Continue. The second alpha is considering breaking the alliance. Accelerate timeline. Do not engage in unnecessary risks. You're too valuable to lose. That last one surprised her. Not because he valued her, she was an expensive investment. But because the phrasing suggested something beyond cold calculation. She ignored the implication. 2 months into the mission, the young alpha invited her to a private dinner. I want your opinion on something, he said as servants laid out courses. The alliance with the other alphas, do you think it's wise? This was the moment. The opening she'd been cultivating. May I speak freely, Alpha? Always. I think you're stronger than you realize. The alliance protects the weaker packs, but it limits your potential. You're young, but you have the bloodline and the territory to stand alone. She paused, letting the words sink in. The question is whether you have the courage. His eyes flashed with something between offense and intrigue. You think I'm a coward? I think you're cautious. But caution can become a cage. She met his gaze. You could rule the Eastern clans entirely, not as an ally, but as their king. The others are older, weaker. They maintain power through tradition, not strength. Challenge that tradition. She watched him process the idea, watched ambition war with fear in his expression. The Blood King would crush me if I stood alone. Would he? Or would he see a potential equal and seek alliance instead of conquest? She leaned forward slightly. You're thinking like prey, Alpha. Start thinking like a predator. It was a gamble. Pushing too hard, too fast. But she read him correctly, young, hungry for validation, desperate to prove himself. You're right, he said slowly. I've been hiding behind the alliance because I was afraid. But maybe it's time to stop being afraid. Success. She sent the report that night, target compromised. Alliance will fracture within the month. The response came swiftly, excellent work. Maintain position. But she noticed something else in the message. A postscript, unusual for the Blood King's typically terse communications. Be careful. Don't let him get too close. She stared at the words, trying to decipher the meaning. Was it strategic concern? Or something else? She dismissed the thought. The Blood King wasn't capable of jealousy. He viewed her as property, a weapon. Nothing more. Still, as she lay in her chambers that night, she found herself wondering what he was doing in Crimson Spire. Whether he thought about his investments. Whether he ever questioned the cost of the power he'd paid to acquire her. Whether he ever felt anything beyond cold calculation. She suspected the answer was no. And she told herself she was glad. The alliance shattered exactly 3 weeks later. The young Alpha, emboldened by her whispered encouragements, challenged the eldest Alpha's authority during a council meeting. Words became threats. Threats became violence. By sunset, the Eastern Clan's alliance was in pieces, and the territories were fracturing into individual power struggles. The Blood King's message arrived at midnight, return to Crimson Spire immediately. Well done. She left the Stormclaw territory before dawn, slipping away while the pack was still reeling from their Alpha's political maneuvering. The young Alpha would be furious when he discovered her absence, would feel betrayed by the healer he'd trusted. She felt nothing about it. The journey west took 9 days. She pushed her horse harder than advisable, driven by something she couldn't quite name. Anticipation, perhaps. Or the simple desire to complete the mission and receive her next assignment. She refused to consider that she might actually want to see the Blood King again. Crimson Spire looked exactly as she'd left it, a monument to power and brutality rising from the mountainside. But something felt different as she passed through the gates. The guards watched her with less contempt, more wariness. Word had spread about her success in Silvercrest and the Eastern clans. She was no longer just another acquisition. She was an asset. The Blood King received her in his private study rather than the throne room. It was a smaller chamber, lined with books and maps, dominated by a massive desk carved from black oak. He stood at the window, his back to her, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of red and gold. 4 months, he said without turning. You destabilized an entire region in 4 months. My generals estimated it would take a year. Your generals lack imagination. He turned then, and she saw something in his expression she hadn't seen before. Not quite approval, but close. Recognition of an equal, perhaps. Or respect. They also lack your particular talents. He moved to his desk, pouring 2 glasses of dark wine. You've exceeded every expectation. The question is whether that makes you more valuable or more dangerous. Can't I be both? Most things that are both don't survive long in my service. He offered her a glass. But you're not most things, are you? She accepted the wine but didn't drink. Poison was too obvious, but she'd learned to be cautious. What gave me away? Nothing specific. 1,000 small inconsistencies. He settled into his chair, studying her over the rim of his glass. You're too skilled to be a simple assassin trained in the underground markets. Too educated. Too strategic. You think like someone who was born to lead, not serve. Her pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. I've had diverse training. Yes. But training alone doesn't create what you are. He leaned forward slightly. I've been researching. Asking questions. Calling in favors from information brokers across the territories. Danger. She felt it coiling in the air between them, electric and sharp. And what did you discover? That 23 years ago, the blood moon court fell. Every royal was slaughtered, or so my grandfather claimed. His crimson eyes never left hers. But there were always rumors. Whispers that one survived. A child, hidden by magic, her bloodline suppressed. The wine glass nearly slipped from her fingers. I think you let yourself be captured and sold at that auction because you wanted to get close to me. I think you've been waiting for this moment your entire life. He rose from his chair, moving around the desk with predatory intent. I think you're planning to kill me. She could run. Could fight. Could deny everything. Instead, she smiled. You're half right. Which half? I am the last heir of the Blood Moon Court. Your grandfather slaughtered my family and burned my birthright to ash. She set the wine glass down with deliberate care. But I'm not planning to kill you. No. No. Killing you would be mercy. Too quick. Too clean. She met his eyes without flinching. I'm planning to destroy everything you've built. To dismantle your kingdom piece by piece. To make you watch as your power crumbles and your name becomes synonymous with failure. And when you've lost everything, when you're alone and broken and stripped of every scrap of authority, then I'll kill you. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, impossibly, he laughed. It was genuine amusement, dark and rich and completely unexpected. Finally, someone honest. He closed the distance between them until they were inches apart. Do you know how exhausting it is being surrounded by wolves who tell me what I want to hear? Who tremble and bow and pretend they're not thinking about how to take my throne? I imagine it's very lonely. It is. Something shifted in his expression. You want to destroy me. I respect that. It's a worthy goal for someone with your bloodline. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along her jaw without quite touching. But here's what you don't understand. I knew what you were the moment I saw you at that auction. Her breath caught. The way you held yourself. The silver undertone in your scent that only royal blood carries. The fact that you weren't afraid. His voice dropped lower. I paid a kingdom for you knowing exactly what you planned to do. Because I was curious. Curious about what? Whether you could actually do it. Whether the last heir of the Blood Moon Court could be the thing that finally breaks the Blood King. He smiled, and it was sharp and dangerous and almost admiring. So go ahead. Try to destroy me. Dismantle my kingdom. Take everything I've built. I'll be watching. And if you succeed, if you actually manage to bring me down, I'll die knowing I finally met someone worthy of the effort. She should have been terrified. Should have realized this was a trap, a game she couldn't win. Instead, she felt something else. Something electric and intoxicating that hummed in the space between them. You're insane, she whispered. Probably. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, the first time he'd actually touched her. But so are you. The difference is, I'm honest about it. She knew she should pull away. Should maintain distance. Should remember that this wolf had built his empire on the bones of her family's kingdom. She didn't move. What happens now? She asked. Now you continue serving me. Completing missions. Gathering intelligence about my own kingdom. His eyes gleamed with dark amusement. I'll even help you. Point out weaknesses. Introduce you to wolves who might be swayed to your cause. Because if you're going to try to destroy me, I want to see you at your best. Why? Because power without challenge is boring. And you, heir to the Blood Moon Court, are the first interesting thing to happen to me in a decade. He stepped back, breaking the moment. So yes. Try to destroy me. Seduce my allies. Undermine my authority. Burn my kingdom if you can. Just know that I'll be doing the same thing right back. This is madness. This is the most honest relationship either of us will ever have. He returned to his desk, picking up his wine as if they'd been discussing weather. You're dismissed. Your chambers are waiting. Tomorrow, I have another assignment for you. She left the study in a daze, her mind reeling from the conversation. He knew. He'd always known. And instead of killing her, he'd turned it into a game. A game where the stakes were 2 kingdoms and the prize was absolute victory. She should have been planning her next move. Should have been calculating how to use this new information. Instead, she was thinking about the way his thumb had felt against her skin. About the challenge in his eyes. About the fact that for the first time in 23 years, she'd met someone who saw her as an equal rather than a threat or a tool. It was dangerous. It was addictive. And she had no idea if she wanted to destroy him or... No. She couldn't think like that. He was the enemy. The grandson of the monster who'd murdered her family. The obstacle between her and justice. But as she lay in her chambers that night, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't stop replaying the conversation. Couldn't stop wondering what it meant that he'd touched her face. Couldn't stop feeling the ghost of his fingers against her skin. She was in trouble. And the worst part was, she suspected he knew it. The next morning brought a surprise. Instead of an assassination assignment or political manipulation, the Blood King summoned her to the training grounds. You're going to learn to fight properly, he announced, standing in the center of a sand-covered arena. He'd stripped down to training leathers, his blades set aside, his powerful frame radiating coiled violence. I know how to fight. You know how to kill from shadows. That's not the same thing. He gestured to the weapons rack. Choose. She selected a pair of short blades, her preferred weapons, balanced for speed rather than power. Good choice. Now attack me. She didn't hesitate. Speed was her advantage, and she used it, coming at him from 3 angles in rapid succession. He deflected each strike with minimal movement, his expression almost bored. Faster. She increased her speed, her blades blurring. Still, he blocked every attack. You're holding back, he observed. Afraid you might actually hurt me? You're the Blood King. I assumed you could handle it. Then stop playing and fight me like you mean it. Something snapped inside her. All the rage she'd been carrying for 23 years, all the grief and fury and helpless anger, it poured into her strikes. She moved faster than she'd ever moved before, faster than should have been possible without a full wolf form. Finally, one of her blades connected. A shallow cut across his ribs. He looked down at the blood seeping through his shirt, then back at her. And smiled. There you are. Then he moved. She'd thought he was fast before. She'd been wrong. He was lightning, striking from angles that shouldn't have existed, his fists and feet becoming weapons that drove her back across the arena. She defended desperately, blocking what she could, taking hits she couldn't avoid. He swept her legs. She hit the sand hard, and suddenly he was above her, his hand wrapped around her throat, not crushing, but controlling. You're faster than any wolf I've fought who can't shift, he said, breathing only slightly harder. How? She glared up at him. Royal blood. Not just that. Your binding is breaking, isn't it? You're accessing power you shouldn't be able to touch. His grip tightened fractionally. How long until it breaks completely? I don't know. Guess. Weeks. Maybe less. And when it does? When you can shift into what you're meant to be. His crimson eyes searched hers. Will you kill me then? While I sleep? A blade in the dark? No. Why not? Because you were right. You deserve better than a quick death. She wrapped her hand around his wrist, not pulling away, just acknowledging the contact. And because I want you to see it coming. Something flared in his expression. Respect. Interest. And something else she couldn't name. You're terrible at self-preservation, he murmured. Says the wolf who knowingly bought his own destruction. Fair point. He released her throat and stood, offering his hand. She stared at it for a moment, the gesture so at odds with everything else about him, before accepting it. He pulled her to her feet with effortless strength. We'll train every morning, he said. I want you at your best when the binding breaks. Want to see what you're truly capable of. Why are you helping me? Because watching you grow stronger is more interesting than keeping you weak. He retrieved his blades. And because when you finally come for me, I want it to be a real fight. Over the following weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Mornings were for training. He pushed her harder than anyone had before, forcing her to access the power building inside her, teaching her to fight like a royal rather than an assassin. She learned to move with the authority of someone born to rule, to command space rather than hide in shadows. Afternoons were for missions. He sent her to undermine his own allies, to plant seeds of dissent in loyal packs, to systematically weaken the foundations of his kingdom. And she did it brilliantly, every assignment a small knife twisted deeper into the empire he'd built. Evenings, they met in his study to discuss strategy. These were the most dangerous times, when the formal distance between king and assassin blurred into something else. They debated philosophy, argued about power and justice, challenged each other's assumptions. Your family's court was built on divine right, he said one evening, pouring wine they'd actually drink together now. Wolves followed because they believed the goddess chose your bloodline. But what happens when wolves stop believing in the goddess? Then you get 300 years of endless territorial wars, she countered. Your system is built on strength alone. The strong dominate the weak. It's sustainable only through constant violence. And yours was sustainable only through constant faith. When that faith wavered, it crumbled. He settled into his chair, studying her across the desk. Neither system is perfect. Both have fatal flaws. So what's the answer? I don't know. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe every system eventually collapses under its own weight, and the best we can do is delay the inevitable. That's bleak. That's realistic. He swirled his wine. Your plan to destroy my kingdom, what comes after? If you succeed, if you burn everything I've built, what replaces it? The question caught her off guard. She'd spent 23 years focused on revenge, on reclaiming what was stolen. She'd never thought beyond that moment. I don't know, she admitted. Then maybe that's something you should figure out. Because destroying is easy. Building something better? That's the real challenge. The conversation stayed with her long into the night. She'd been so focused on tearing down his empire that she hadn't considered what she'd build in its place. The Blood Moon Court was dead. Even if she reclaimed the throne, she couldn't resurrect a system built on faith that no longer existed. What did she actually want? The answer came to her slowly, over days of training and missions and late-night discussions. She wanted what he had. Not the throne, not the territory, not the power itself. She wanted to be seen as an equal. To stand across from someone who didn't fear her or worship her or try to control her. Someone who challenged her, matched her. Met her blow for blow and thought for thought. She wanted. No. She couldn't finish that thought. Couldn't acknowledge what it meant. Because it meant she was falling for the one wolf she was supposed to destroy. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The binding shattered on a night of the new moon. She was in her chambers when it happened. Pain exploded through her body, every cell igniting, every nerve screaming. It felt like being born and dying simultaneously, like her body was tearing itself apart and rebuilding into something new. She tried to scream, but her voice had changed, deepened into a growl that shook the stone walls. Then she was shifting. Her bones reformed with sickening cracks. Her muscles tore and regenerated. Silver fur erupted across her skin, and suddenly she was on 4 legs, massive and powerful and utterly transformed. Her wolf was enormous. Larger than any alpha she'd encountered, her fur the color of moonlight on snow, her eyes blazing with ancient power. She could feel strength coiled in every muscle, could sense the magic that thrummed through her veins, the full power of the Blood Moon Court, finally unleashed. The door to her chambers burst open. The Blood King stood in the doorway, taking in the sight of her wolf form with an expression she'd never seen before. Not fear. Not shock. Hunger. Magnificent, he breathed. She snarled, and the sound rattled windows. Every instinct screamed at her to attack, to kill, to take revenge for everything his bloodline had stolen. But he didn't move. Didn't reach for weapons. Just stood there, watching her with those crimson eyes full of dark fascination. Do it, he said quietly. If you're going to kill me, now's your chance. I'm unarmed. You're at full power. You'll never have a better opportunity. She should have taken it. Should have lunged across the room and torn out his throat. Instead, she shifted back. The transformation reversed in a cascade of power and pain, leaving her naked and gasping on the stone floor. He was beside her in an instant, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders, his hands surprisingly gentle. Easy, he murmured. First shift is always brutal. Let your body adjust. Why? The word came out raw. Why didn't you run? Why didn't you defend yourself? Because I told you I wanted to see you at your best. He helped her stand, supporting her weight when her legs nearly gave out. That was worth dying for. She stared at him, trying to understand. You're insane. We've established that. His hands were still on her shoulders, steadying her. How do you feel? Like I could tear apart mountains. Good. That's how you should feel. He stepped back, giving her space. Your power is fully awakened now. You could leave. Break the contract, your magic is strong enough. Walk out of Crimson Spire and never look back. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. His expression was unreadable. The question is what you want. She looked at him, this wolf who'd bought her knowing she planned his destruction, who'd trained her to be stronger, who'd helped her access the very power she needed to defeat him. She should want to leave. Should want to gather her strength and return with an army to tear down everything he'd built. But she didn't. I want to finish what I started, she said. Destroying me? Yes. Then stay. Keep completing my missions. Keep undermining my kingdom. He moved to the door, then paused. But understand something, now that you have your full power, this stops being a game. When you come for me, it will be real. And I will fight back with everything I have. I wouldn't want it any other way. He nodded once and left, closing the door behind him. She sank onto her bed, trembling with exhaustion and something else. Her wolf paced inside her mind, finally free, finally whole. It whispered truths she didn't want to hear. About the way her heart raced when he challenged her. About the electricity that sparked when they touched. About the fact that destroying him meant losing the only wolf who'd ever truly seen her. She was in love with her enemy. And she had no idea what to do about it. Stay with me to witness what happens when an immortal assassin's heart becomes the one thing even she can't control. Everything changed after her awakening. The Blood King's missions became more complex, more dangerous. He sent her to negotiate with hostile packs, to infiltrate enemy territories, to serve as his personal representative in situations where his presence would spark war. You're using me as a diplomat now, she asked after he assigned her to mediate a border dispute. I'm using you as what you are, a royal with the authority to command respect. He didn't look up from the documents he was reviewing. Your bloodline carries weight, even if most wolves don't know you're the last heir. They can feel it. They'll listen. He was right. When she walked into negotiations now, wolves deferred automatically. Her power radiated from her like heat, impossible to ignore. She settled disputes that had festered for years, forged alliances the Blood King couldn't have achieved through force alone. She was making his kingdom stronger, even as she planned to destroy it. The contradiction wasn't lost on her. Their training sessions intensified. Now that she could shift, he pushed her wolf form to its limits. They fought in the arena until they both bled, neither holding back, matching each other blow for blow. You're getting stronger, he observed one morning after she'd actually managed to pin him. You're getting slower, she countered. No. You're getting better at reading my movements. He flipped their positions effortlessly, demonstrating that he'd let her win. There's a difference. She snarled in frustration. Don't be angry. Being able to read an opponent is more valuable than raw strength. His weight pressed her into the sand. His face inches from hers. The question is whether you can use that skill when emotions are involved. What emotions? The ones currently making your heart race. His voice dropped lower. The ones that have nothing to do with combat. She could have denied it. Should have denied it. Instead, she kissed him. It was a terrible decision. A catastrophic mistake. But the moment their lips met, she stopped caring. The kiss was fierce, combative, neither giving quarter. His hand fisted in her hair. Her nails dug into his shoulders. It was less affection than acknowledgement, two predators admitting attraction while refusing to surrender. He pulled back first, his crimson eyes blazing with something between triumph and regret. "This complicates things," he said. "Everything about this has been complicated since the beginning." "True." He stood, offering his hand again. "But now we have another problem." "Which is?" "Now I know you want me as much as I want you. And that's a weakness we both can exploit." The words should have felt like a threat. Instead, they felt like honesty. They didn't speak of the kiss. Didn't acknowledge it beyond that moment. But everything shifted anyway. Their conversations became more charged. Their fights more intense. The air between them crackled with tension that had nowhere to go. She continued her missions, systematically weakening his kingdom's foundations. He continued giving her the assignments that would hurt him most. It was a dance of mutual destruction, and neither was willing to stop. 3 months after her awakening, she discovered something that changed everything. She was investigating his archives, looking for evidence of his grandfather's crimes, when she found a hidden compartment beneath the Blood King's desk. Inside was a single letter, written in elegant script, dated 23 years ago. "To my grandson. If you're reading this, I am dead by your hand. Good. I taught you well. There are things you need to know about the Blood Moon Court's fall. Things I never told the council. The slaughter was not my idea, it was necessary to prevent something worse. The Moon Court's power came with a price. Every generation, one royal went mad. Consumed by their own magic. They called it the Silver Madness, and when it struck, the afflicted royal would destroy everything in their path until they were killed. The last Moon Queen suffered the madness. She slaughtered half her own pack before we stopped her. The council decided then that the entire bloodline needed to end. That the risk was too great. I led the purge. Killed every royal I could find. But I always wondered if we missed one. If somewhere, a child survived. If that child exists, they will awaken to full power eventually. And when they do, watch for the signs. Watch for madness. Kill them before it's too late. Your grandfather." She read the letter 3 times, her hands shaking. Silver madness. A curse in her bloodline. A madness that could consume her completely. Was that why the binding had been placed? Not just to hide her, but to prevent the madness from manifesting? Was she doomed to eventually destroy everything, just like her ancestor? She was still holding the letter when the Blood King found her. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. "How long have you known?" "Since I bought you. My grandfather left files. Research on your bloodline. The madness. The risks." He moved closer, his expression unreadable. "I've been watching for signs. Waiting to see if it would manifest. And if it does. If I go mad." Her voice was hollow. "Will you kill me?" "Yes." The honesty shouldn't have surprised her. But it hurt anyway. How generous. "It's not generosity. It's necessity." He took the letter from her trembling hands. "But I don't think you'll succumb." "Why not?" "Because the madness manifested in royals who were isolated. Protected from the realities of power. You've spent 23 years surviving. Fighting. Learning control." His fingers brushed hers. "You're stronger than they were. You can't know that." "No. But I choose to believe it." He set the letter aside. "And if I'm wrong, if the madness comes for you, I'll do what needs to be done. Quickly. Mercifully." It was the closest thing to a declaration of care he was capable of making. She should have been angry. Should have been terrified. Instead, she felt oddly comforted. "This is insane," she whispered. "Everything about us is insane." He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "But I'd rather have this impossible, destructive thing between us than anything else." She kissed him again. Slower this time. Less combative. An acknowledgement of something neither could name. When they broke apart, nothing had changed. She still planned to destroy him. He still planned to let her try. But now they both understood the stakes. And neither was willing to stop. Months after her awakening, she received an unexpected visitor. A messenger arrived at Crimson Spire bearing an invitation sealed with the mark of the Eastern clans. The young Alpha, the one she'd manipulated into breaking the alliance, was calling a grand council. Every pack in the territories was invited to attend. His trying to unite them again, the Blood King observed, reading the invitation over her shoulder. And his using you as the reason. Me. His claiming that a royal heir has returned. That the Blood Moon Court lives. His expression was thoughtful. He wants to legitimize his power grab by aligning himself with your bloodline. I never told him who I was. You didn't have to. Your power is unmistakable now. Word has spread. He set the invitation aside. This is a problem. Or an opportunity. Explain. She turned to face him. What if I went? Presented myself as the returned heir. Let them see what I am. They'd try to use you. The young Alpha would claim you as an ally to boost his legitimacy. The others would try to eliminate you as a threat. Let them try. Her eyes gleamed with dangerous intent. I could destabilize every pack in the territories in a single meeting. Isn't that what you want? Chaos that you can exploit. What I want, he said carefully, is for you to not walk into a room with 50 alphas who all have reasons to kill you. Afraid you'll lose your investment. Afraid I'll lose you. The admission came out flat, emotionless. But she heard the truth beneath it. She stepped closer, her hand finding his. I'm going. The question is whether you're coming with me. As what? Your captor. Your ally. As whatever you want to be. They left for the Grand Council 3 days later, traveling with a small escort of the Blood King's most trusted warriors. The journey east took 2 weeks, and every night they camped, every moment alone, the tension between them grew. They didn't speak of it. Didn't acknowledge the way they gravitated toward each other, the way their hands would brush in passing, the way they both found excuses to touch. But it was there. Undeniable. Devastating. The Grand Council was held in neutral territory, a massive amphitheater carved into a mountainside. Hundreds of wolves gathered, representatives from every pack in the territories. The air thrummed with dominance and barely restrained violence. She walked into that amphitheater wearing silver and white, her power radiating from her like visible light. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. The young Alpha stood at the center, flanked by the 3 remaining allied leaders. His expression was triumphant. The heir to the Blood Moon Court, he announced. Returned to reclaim her birthright. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Blood King walked beside her, a statement in itself. The most powerful alpha in the territories, escorting the returned royal. The implications were staggering. She serves me, the Blood King said, his voice carrying through the amphitheater. Her contract is mine. Her loyalty is mine. You bought her like property, the young Alpha countered. She deserves better than to be your weapon. She deserves to make her own choices. All eyes turned to her. This was the moment. The choice that would define everything that came after. She could align with the young Alpha. Use his political ambition to rebuild the Blood Moon Court. Gather allies and create an army to destroy the Blood King from outside. Or she could stand with the wolf who'd bought her, trained her, challenged her. The wolf who knew her darkest secrets and still chose to see her as an equal. She met the Blood King's crimson eyes across the space between them. Saw the challenge there. The unspoken question. What do you choose? I serve no one, she said, her voice ringing clear. Not the Blood King. Not the Eastern clans. Not anyone in this amphitheater. Shocked silence. But I stand with him. She moved to the Blood King's side. Not because he owns me. Because he earned it. The young Alpha's face darkened with fury. He's the grandson of the monster who slaughtered your family. I know exactly who he is. Just as he knows exactly who I am. She let silver light blaze from her eyes. And we've both decided that the past matters less than what we choose to build now. It was a declaration. A line drawn. A choice that would echo through the territories for generations. The amphitheater erupted into chaos. Some packs rose in support. Others roared their opposition. The young alpha called for her blood, claiming she'd betrayed her own heritage. The Blood King's hand found hers, their fingers interlocking. "We're leaving," he said quietly. "Now." They fought their way out of the amphitheater, his warriors forming a protective barrier as enraged wolves lunged at them from all sides. She shifted mid-stride. Her massive silver wolf tearing through attackers with brutal efficiency. The Blood King shifted beside her, a crimson wolf larger than any alpha should be, his eyes glowing with primal fury. Together, they were unstoppable. They carved through the chaos and disappeared into the mountains, leaving the Grand Council in shambles behind them. That night, alone in a cave miles from civilization, they finally confronted what had been building between them. "You chose me," he said, still in human form, covered in blood and breathing hard. "I chose us," she corrected. "I chose this thing we're building, whatever it is. Even knowing it might destroy us both. Especially knowing that." He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his mouth finding hers with desperate intensity. This kiss wasn't combative. It was surrender. Acknowledgement. 2 wolves finally admitting they'd fallen despite every reason not to. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. "I'm still going to try to destroy your kingdom," she whispered. "I know. And you're still going to try to stop me. I know. This is insane. I don't care." His hands framed her face. "You're mine. I'm yours. Everything else is secondary." For the first time in 23 years, she allowed herself to believe in something beyond revenge. To believe in them. War came to the Western Reaches 3 weeks after the Grand Council. The young alpha had gathered allies, 15 packs, united by fury at her betrayal and opportunistic desire to claim the Blood King's territory. They marched on Crimson Spire with an army 5,000 strong. The Blood King had 2,000 warriors. "We're outnumbered," his general reported. "Even with Lady Silver fighting beside us." "Don't call her that," the Blood King interrupted. "She has a name." The general blinked in surprise but nodded. "Even with her power, the numbers are against us. I recommend we evacuate the fortress. Retreat to the southern territories and regroup." "No. Your Majesty. I will not abandon Crimson Spire. This is my seat of power. If I retreat, every pack in the territories will see it as weakness. They'll tear my kingdom apart pack by pack." The Blood King's eyes blazed. "We hold here. We make them bleed for every inch." She stood at his side, studying the maps. His right. Retreating now means losing everything. Her fingers traced the mountain passes. "But we don't have to fight them head-on." "Explain." "The Eastern clan's strength is in their numbers. But numbers mean nothing if they can't bring them to bear." She pointed to the narrow passes leading to Crimson Spire. "We funnel them here. And here. Force them to attack in smaller groups. Use the terrain against them. They'll expect that." "Of course. So we give them what they expect, then hit them from behind." She looked at the Blood King. "I'll take 50 of your best wolves. We circle around through the western pass, come at them from the rear while they're focused on the fortress. You'll be trapped behind enemy lines. I'll be exactly where I need to be." Her eyes gleamed with dangerous intent. "Trust me." He stared at her for a long moment. Then nodded. "Take the Shadow Guard. They're the best I have. They'll never follow me. I'm not pack." "You're my—" He stopped, seeming to catch himself. "They'll follow you because I command it." The battle began at dawn. The Eastern clan's army poured through the mountain passes like a flood, their howls echoing off stone walls. The Blood King's warriors met them at the choke points, turning the narrow passages into killing grounds. Blood stained the snow red within minutes. She led the Shadow Guard through the western pass, moving fast and silent. 50 wolves against 5,000. Impossible odds. Perfect. They struck the enemy's rear flank just as the sun reached its zenith. Her silver wolf tore through their ranks like divine retribution. The Shadow Guard fighting with the precision of wolves who had trained together for decades. The enemy army fractured. Caught between two forces, unable to use their superior numbers, they began to panic. The young Alpha's voice rose above the chaos, trying to rally his forces. She found him in the center of the battlefield, surrounded by his personal guard. Their eyes met across a field of corpses. "You chose the wrong side," he snarled, shifting into his wolf form. She shifted in response. "No. I chose the only side that matters." They clashed with the force of competing storms. He was strong. Well-trained. Fighting for pride and wounded ego and the belief that he deserved to rule. She was stronger. Fighting for something he couldn't understand. For the wolf who'd seen her as an equal. For the impossible thing they were building together. She tore out his throat in less than 3 minutes. The Eastern Clan's army broke after their Alpha fell. Warriors scattered into the mountains, pursued by the Blood King's forces. By sunset, the battle was over. She found the Blood King in the aftermath, standing among the dead. He was covered in blood, none of it his own. His crimson wolf was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. He shifted back to human form as she approached. "You're hurt," she said, noticing the way he favored his left side. "Broken ribs. They'll heal." He looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. "You came back." "Of course I came back. You could have kept running. Disappeared into the territories. I couldn't have stopped you." "I know." She closed the distance between them. "But I didn't want to." He pulled her close despite the pain it caused, his forehead resting against hers. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "My grandfather's letter. The one about the silver madness. I've been researching." His hands trembled slightly against her back. "I think I know how to cure it." She pulled back to look at him. "What?" "The madness manifested in royals who accessed their power alone. But there are records of royals who bonded, truly bonded, with powerful mates. The bond grounded them. Kept them sane." His crimson eyes held hers. "I think that's why your mother survived. Why she never succumbed. She had my father." "Yes. And I think you have me." The implication hit her like a physical force. "You want to complete the mate bond. I want you to never have to fear the madness. I want you safe. Whole. And if that means binding myself to you for the rest of our lives, I'll do it without hesitation. Even though I'm still planning to destroy your kingdom. Even then." His smile was sharp. "Though I have to warn you, if we bond, you'll feel everything I feel. You'll know exactly how much I care. How much he stopped, the words clearly difficult. "How much I love you." She had known, on some level. Had felt it in every touch, every challenge, every moment he'd chosen to make her stronger instead of keeping her weak. But hearing him say it changed everything. "This is insane," she whispered for the 100th time. "I know." He cupped her face with bloody hands. "But I'm done pretending. Done playing games. I love you. I will always love you. And if you reject me, if you walk away, I'll let you go. But I needed you to know." She could have said no. Could have maintained the distance that kept them both safe. Instead, she kissed him. "Yes," she breathed against his mouth. "Yes to the bond. Yes to you. Yes to this insane, impossible thing we're building." They completed the mate bond that night beneath a full moon, their wolves intertwining in a ritual as old as their kind. When it was done, she could feel him in her chest, his heartbeat synchronized with hers, his emotions a constant presence at the edge of her awareness. Love. Fierce and unconditional and absolute. She had gained a mate. And lost the last shield protecting her heart. The bond changed everything and nothing. She still worked to undermine his kingdom, but now she did it with his full knowledge and assistance. He pointed out weaknesses in his own alliances, helped her identify wolves who could be swayed, gave her the tools to systematically dismantle what he'd built. "Why are you helping me destroy you?" she asked one night in his study. "Because you were right. My kingdom is built on fear and strength alone. It's not sustainable." He looked up from the documents they were reviewing. "But what you could build, a system that combines royal authority with earned loyalty that might actually last." You're talking about giving me your throne. I'm talking about us building something new. Together. That's not revenge. No. It's better than revenge. He set the documents aside. Revenge is destroying what hurt you. This is creating something worth having. She wanted to argue. Wanted to insist that she still needed to tear down everything his bloodline represented. But through the bond, she felt his sincerity. His genuine belief that together, they could create something neither could achieve alone. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Over the following months, they began the work of transformation. The Blood King's council, wolves who had served him through fear, were gradually replaced with wolves who believed in the new vision. Packs that had bent the knee through conquest were given the choice to ally willingly or leave peacefully. Not all chose to stay. Some saw the changes as weakness. But those who remained were stronger for the choice. She traveled through the territories, speaking to packs that had never seen a royal. Her power and authority were undeniable, but she didn't demand obedience. She earned it. Slowly, impossibly, the territories began to change. The turning point came when 3 of the Blood King's oldest rivals approached Crimson Spire under a flag of truce. "We've heard the rumors," their spokesman said, "that you're building a new kind of kingdom. One that honors both strength and sacred law." "The rumors are true," she confirmed. "And you, the last heir of the Blood Moon Court, you truly stand with him? The grandson of the king who destroyed your family? I stand with the wolf he's chosen to become. Not the legacy he inherited." She looked at the Blood King across the war table. "We all have to decide whether we're defined by our ancestors' sins or by our own choices." Pretty words. But we need proof. What kind of proof? The rival Alpha met her eyes. "A demonstration of your power. The old records say royals could pass judgment on those who violated sacred law. Prove it. Prove you carry that authority." It was a test. A challenge. One she couldn't refuse without losing credibility. "Name the violator." "Lord Thane of the Blackwater Pack. He murdered his brother to claim the Alpha position. Everyone knows it, but no one can prove it." The rival Alpha's expression was hard. "If you truly carry royal authority, you'll be able to see the truth. To pass judgment." She had never attempted the judgment gift. Didn't know if she could access it. Through the bond, she felt the Blood King's confidence. His absolute belief that she could do this. She stood. "Bring him here." Lord Thane arrived 3 days later, furious at being summoned like a common wolf. He was massive, scarred from countless battles, radiating the kind of crude power that intimidated lesser wolves. He didn't intimidate her. "You summoned me, girl?" His lip curled with contempt. "I don't care what bloodline you claim. I don't bend the knee to." Silence. The command rolled out of her with supernatural force. Lord Thane's mouth snapped shut, his wolf compelled to obey royal authority whether he wanted to or not. She circled him slowly, letting her power build. The judgment gift was different from her other abilities. It required absolute certainty, perfect clarity. She had to see not just the act, but the truth behind it. She placed her hand on his chest and let her power flow. Images flooded her mind. Lord Thane's brother, laughing at his jokes. Lord Thane's growing resentment, his hunger for power. The moment he'd decided. The poison in the wine. His brother's convulsions. His final breath. The truth was unmistakable. She pulled her hand back, her expression cold. "You murdered your brother. Poisoned him during a celebration meant to honor your mother's memory. You watched him die and felt nothing but satisfaction." Lord Thane's face went white. "That's a lie. You have no proof." "I don't need proof. I have the truth." Her eyes blazed silver. "By the authority of the Blood Moon Court, by sacred law that predates every pack in these territories, I pass judgment. You are guilty. Your title is forfeit. Your pack is released from their oaths to you. And you are exiled from all packlands for the rest of your natural life." Power crashed out of her like a wave. Lord Thane screamed as magical bindings wrapped around him, not physical restraints, but something deeper. A mark that every wolf would be able to sense. The mark of the judged. He would never be able to lie about his crimes again. Would never be able to hide what he'd done. The rival alphas watched in stunned silence as guards dragged Lord Thane from the fortress, his protests echoing through the halls. The records were true, one of them whispered. The royal gift is real. Word spread like wildfire through the territories. The last heir of the Blood Moon Court could see truth. Could pass judgment. Could enforce sacred law with supernatural authority. Wolves began coming to Crimson Spire seeking justice. Matters that had festered for years, conflicts that couldn't be resolved through strength alone, they brought them to her. She became what her ancestors had been, the voice of the moon goddess. The arbiter of disputes. The living embodiment of sacred law. And the Blood King stood beside her through all of it, his crimson wolf at her silver one's side, his kingdom transforming into something neither had imagined possible. They were building an empire. Together. 1 year after the mate bond, she stood on the balcony of Crimson Spire watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. The Blood King's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Through the bond, she felt his contentment, his love, his absolute certainty that this them was worth every sacrifice. The council is meeting today, he murmured against her hair. They're going to formally propose the union. Union of what? The Western Reaches and the Blood Moon Court. A new kingdom that honors both systems. He turned her in his arms. With you as its queen. And you. As your king consort. If you'll have me. She had never imagined this. Had spent 23 years focused on revenge, on destruction, on tearing down everything his bloodline represented. But revenge had transformed into something better. Into justice. Into creation. Into love. On one condition, she said. Name it. We do this as equals. Not consort and queen. King and queen. Partners in every way. That's not how tradition. I don't care about tradition. I care about us. Her hands found his face. You've given me everything, my power, my purpose, my heart. I won't let you diminish yourself for me. Through the bond, she felt his overwhelming emotion. Joy. Relief. Love so fierce it nearly brought tears to her eyes. Then yes, he said roughly. As equals. As partners. As mates. The council meeting was a formality. Every alpha who mattered had already pledged loyalty to the new vision. The territories that had once been held through fear now allied through choice. It wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still wolves who resisted change. But it was better. Sustainable. Built on a foundation that could last for generations. That night, they held a celebration in Crimson Spire's Grand Hall. Wolves from every pack in the territories gathered to witness the formal union of the Blood Moon Court and the Western Reaches. She wore silver and white. He wore crimson and black. Together, they looked like opposing forces that had somehow found balance. The keeper, who had traveled from the mountains for this occasion, performed the ceremony. It was a blend of old rituals and new vows, tradition and innovation intertwined. Do you swear to lead with wisdom and strength? The keeper asked her. I do. Do you swear to protect the weak and uphold sacred law? I do. The keeper turned to the Blood King. Do you swear to stand beside her as an equal, to honor her authority and her choices? I do. Then by the power of the moon goddess and the authority of every pack gathered here, I declare you king and queen of the United Territories. May your reign be long and your legacy eternal. The hall erupted in howls of celebration. Later, alone in their chambers, the Blood King pulled her close. Did you ever imagine this? He asked. When you let yourself be sold at that auction, when you walked into my fortress planning my destruction, did you imagine we'd end up here? No. I imagined blood and fire and watching you lose everything. She smiled against his chest. This is better. Better than revenge. Better than anything I could have planned. She looked up at him. You've given me something I didn't know I wanted. A throne, yes. But more than that, you gave me a choice. A future. A life beyond the past that destroyed my family. You gave me the same thing. His fingers traced her jaw. I was so focused on maintaining power, on proving I was stronger than my grandfather, that I forgot to ask why I wanted it. You made me question everything. Made me become something better. We made each other better. Yes. He kissed her, slow and deep. And we'll keep making each other better. Keep challenging each other. Keep building this impossible thing we've created. Even when I'm difficult. Especially when you're difficult. She laughed, the sound full of genuine joy. Through the bond, she felt his matching happiness. His absolute contentment with this moment, this life, this future they were building together. She had come to Crimson Spire seeking revenge. She had found something infinitely more valuable. Love. Partnership. A kingdom built on more than fear. And a wolf who saw her not as a weapon or a tool or a threat, but as an equal. The Blood King had paid a kingdom to own her. But in the end, she had conquered the one thing even he couldn't control. His heart. And he had conquered hers in return. It was the most devastating victory either had ever achieved. And the beginning of an empire that would reshape the territories for generations to come. Their story is far from over. Subscribe now to see what happens when two wolves who were meant to destroy each other choose to rule side by side instead. The real battle for the United Territories is just beginning.